Hello, my beautiful and lovely gamers. My name is Jonal. Are you being hacked in this exact moment that you're hearing this voice? Well, it's Sombra botting you in rank. That's essentially what we're going to talk about today. How to deal with Sombra on all roles. Not every single hero, but a generalized for all roles, so tanks, DPS, and supports. How to deal with Sombra as, well, I've been playing lately quite a lot on my Smurf. As again, it's been my home exam, so I haven't really had time to place my main. I'm going to do it right after I make this video, as there's only a couple days less of the rank season. But it was asked, when I asked in our Discord server, which I will link in the description, what videos you guys want to see. I was told that, hey, I would very much like to see a how to counter Sombra, how to deal with Sombras, as I do expect that this is a very familiar situation for a lot of people, that you're performing quite well, you are performing against the enemy team, but there's that one Sombra, right? There's that one Sombra that's just being irritating. Maybe you're playing Sombra yourself and you're constantly getting counter-hacked, right? No matter what it is, it can be quite struggling, quite frustrating, and it's one of those places that's very difficult to play against, because EMP is quite busted, and there's not really much counterplay to do of it mechanically, right? It's not in the same way as Earth Shadow that can get blocked, for example, right? But if you play Ryan, right? If you get EMP as Ryan, there wasn't really much you could do about that except pin her when she was in this, right? So what I'm telling you is really you should just go and buy an aimbot and deal with the Sombra by locking onto her while in this. That's really the best way to deal with her, but not everybody can afford. I know not everybody makes my kind of money on YouTube, so not everybody can afford an expensive aimbot. So how do you deal with her as a pleb, as someone that doesn't decide to cheat? Well, essentially, we gotta think about like this. There are, of course, there are swaps. You can swap onto heroes that are less affected by the hacks. Hanzo is my go-to hero. Of course, that's also because I play way too much Hanzo, because he's way too fucking busted and way too fucking fun to just one-shot people. But besides that, swapping is an option. That is something that you gotta think about. If you play Hammond, you're solo tanking Hammond, which is happening way too much lately in ranked. You're solo tanking as Hammond, you're constantly getting hacked, but it's a bitch ass Sombra that constantly just sits in her backline and just constantly just waits until the Hammond comes, you move in, you get hacked, you're useless, right? And you don't get any value, swap. That is one of the options. For example, Roadhog is one of those heroes that can work very well as a solo tank and as a carry tank, especially towards the lower elos. He can be really, really good in lower elos if you know what you're doing with him. High shield break, good pick potentials, sustain, whole hog, can break shield and push people back and so on. So yes, that is an option. Besides that, this goes for tanks. Let's just start with tanks, because those are those that are affected the most. Swapping off, like, it's kind of like I go from Wrecking Ball to Diva, for example, right? Okay, so you went from something that's really good to hack to something that's really good to hack. You go to Ryan, he's also good to hack. All tanks are very valuable hack targets, as they normally are free EMP charge, and normally by hacking them, you're putting them out. Like Zarya is potentially one of those that you can argue with. Okay, if she gets hacked and she's high energy, she's still very carry, and you can still do a lot of impact on her. Hog can be very much the same, just because of how he naturally will position and the fact that he's 600 HP worth of fuck you, and he's really good with shotguns anyway. But stuff like Ryan, Diva, Winston, Orisa, and Hammond, you hack them and they are very, very useless. Spy checking, as I said, this goes for all heroes. That means that you're just shooting around you like a spastic, spinning around. I don't fucking know. Right, so essentially, for example, as a Diva player, you can say, okay, as a Winston, I'm holding here, so I will just be Tesla canning here. Right? That way, if the Sombra goes past, she gets hit, right? As a Diva, okay, I'll be mouse running, just going from here all the way around, just like mouse running with my shotguns, because I only need to hit her with one pellet to break her stealth, right? I just need to deal a little bit of damage to her, then I'll break her stealth, right? Same goes with Zarya, same goes for really all people. If you play Widowmaker, right, and if you play Widowmaker and you, for example, is, I don't know, far back here, right? Just like mouse running, just shooting everywhere, like you're up here, you just shoot around areas. It puts a lot more pressure on her. There's a chance that you will make her stealth, or that she will have to take a longer route or a worse route around for her, so she's not just allowed to walk for free. It works especially really good in low elos, with something that you should always try to do. So that's just spy checking, in general, just spy checking. Besides that, when you play tanks, my tip is really two things. One, if possible, logically try to stop the hack by either breaking LOS. That can be done by shield tanks such as Ryan, by just knowing where. For example, if you stay here and let's say that your entire team is behind you, right? So you're holding this corner right here, your team is here, right? Okay, so where does the hack come from? Well, it most likely doesn't come from right next to the Zarya, right? It doesn't come from here. It might come from over here. It might come from this high ground. And if you hold, for example, a little bit further out, right, and she can see you, or it might come from somewhere here. Just remember that, and then try, it's not as easy, that if you hear the hack sound, that you flick the shield. Second, and this is the most important, right, that's just breaking it. The same goes with a Diva, right, if you're shooting, down, bum, 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 and she comes behind you, then try to just 180 and then hit her, so you cancel the hack with damage. That is one of them. As I said, like positioning like this, where my team is covering me, there's a bigger chance that, for example, if she goes here, and let's say that I had a soldier that was positioned over here, right? There's a bigger chance of when I see that my soldier might shoot him. But then I'm, of course, relying on teammates, which is not something that we can always do. Next up is try to make sure that if you get hacked, because it will happen eventually, that they don't get a lot of value out of that hack. That is positioning. For example, positioning here and you get hacked, right? And the enemy team, which is represented by Reinhardt, you are here. Okay, already this can be noticed as a really bad positioning because you're kind of half-assing the positioning in between, you know, cover and no cover. There's no cover here, and there's no retreat point. So if you get hacked now, you're just killed, right? Compared to here, where if I get hacked, I can hide this way. I can kite backwards, right? So this is a better position, since a lot of bad Sombras will hack in really weird situations a lot of time. They don't do the classic where it has a good Sombra, the engage happens, then the hacks come out. A lot of Sombras hack, then the engage is supposed to happen, right? They kind of hack on their own terms. Which is also one of the trips that, remember that a lot of Sombras go out from stealth and then into normal mode, and then they start the hack, which gives you auto queue that can help you time out. Also goes for stuff like Saryas, for example. In this example, right? If I'm positioning myself here, I get hacked, I can run under here to break LOS of her machine gun. She's on high ground, I'm on low ground. I can run under here to try to get some cover. Same goes for example with this soldier. I'm fighting here, she appears here. I can run here to break LOS, right? And shoot her, of course, but I can run here to break LOS. Same if she goes here. Then I can try to sprint around here, right, to get LOS, to break her LOS again. So you can try to use whatever cover you have, if possible, to break LOS. Also drop from high grounds and so on. Another one for tanks is to try to control high ground if possible, as high grounds are the irritating one, right? Imagine the Sombra is here, you know, and your team is, let's say your team is up here, right? There's Sombra up top, you're on low ground, you get hacked, you're fucked. You're up top on high ground, the Sombra hacks you, and the Sombra now has to duel you. If she's way over here and she hacks you, you just drop yourself, and now she has to run all the way up here to get any value out of that hack. So already trying to play high ground, normally high ground is really good, we all know that, is also a good way to deny this. So as a tank, try to see if you can deny the hack in a way that there will not be any value, because you will eventually get hacked as a tank. There's just not much we can do about it, and that's just really how it goes. As a DPS, there's a lot of picks on the DPS list that works really well against Sombra, where she won't get any value. My biggest advice to stuff like Widowmakers is also go to certain support players, is to try again, as always, not to just stand still and hot scope, even though you can, because remember what's going to happen. When you get hacked while you're hot scoping, a lot of times she doesn't even need to do the hack, right? She can just unstealth, put the gun to your head and just empty the mag, and you will most likely die, or at least lose majority of your health, and then you're on the mercy of your supports to have game sense to actually heal you. And that's a problem. So that's one of the big ones. As a DPS, a lot of time we have tools to deal with her, right? Tracers can blink out of her hack range into behind or around cover. She can also recall to cancel it. May can ice cube actually to cancel it, or put up a wall, or hit, or just like spin around with her freezer. Reaper can Rayform, another Sombra can translocate, a Moira can fade, right? There's a lot of people that can deal with the hack in their own way, just by using whatever they have at their disposal. Another thing, like Genji, for example, can easily dash the Sombra herself to cancel it. But as I said, not being static with the crosshair and just like standing completely still and just looking at one direction and just like waiting, is a good way to avoid getting hacked. You're constantly moving and you're practicing your movement so that if you get targeted, you can, one, move to cover so that she can't empty a full mag into you. Because normally if they hack DPSs, it's not to get ult charge. At that point, they should focus on the tanks. If they hack the DPS, it's almost trying to kill you. Playing around your team or close to your team. High grounds, of course, as we talked about, help because you can drop from them and you can play up on here. So she can't just hack you from high ground and shoot down on you. It's an even playing field. And again, moving around, strafing, being close to cover so that when you get hacked, you can easily move behind cover, or at least try to use cover to a certain extent. It helps a lot. For example, if you get hacked as a McCree, some Sombras like to do that, and you don't have the game sense to hear her, you know, because a lot of time again she pops out. You can easily 180 flash to do that, or hit her with a shot. You're here, you get hacked. If you can then move outside or around, that can help you quite a lot. You get hacked, you move outside around. Now where is she coming from? Let me just get my Sombra icon. There we go. Right? She had LOS on you while you were standing here. You get hacked, you move here. You know where she's coming from. She's coming in this LOS, so you can just put your crosshair here, and it's easier for you to land a shot there and trade with her. And again, it's for us, it's about zoning her out for the hack. Remember how vulnerable she is. If she hacks early while we have all our abilities up, she hacks, she does get a drop on us, we can outlast that, and a lot of time re-engage with abilities as soon as the hack goes down. The same goes for supports. Watching out that, okay, you're not standing alone. If you stand alone, then you need to be aware of your surroundings and what's going on around you, because Sombras love going for targets that are alone. So if you play Zenyatta and you're playing far away from your team where no one can see you and no one can help you, then you gotta remember that there might come an invis player just up behind you, and using these tricks where you have cover, you can rotate into cover, drop from high ground, or something like that. Or again, play around where teammates, hopefully we'll be able to see you. A lot of Sombras, I said, are really bad, where your teammates can see you. All of these things apply to you as well, while we can still spy check. The third thing is EMP, and just remember how EMP works. It's a big clunk, and she most likely goes for the biggest targets. A lot of people like to go for tanks, or wherever the tanks are centered. So remember, if you play support or DPS, which have good ultimates that can deal with this, isolating yourself can be smart to a certain extent, as long as you know what you're doing, right? So making sure you don't get hit by her EMP can be really, really valuable. And at that point, you might have to split off off from your team, at least from your front line, to guarantee that you can get a good ultimate. High noons, for example, is really, really good. If the EMP comes out, the enemy team is going to rush, especially if they play Rheincom, right? They're going to rush into your team because you don't have your abilities. If you high noon, it's very difficult for them to rush all of a sudden, right? So if you have a good position where you can high noon, you can actually slow down or even stop the entire push. The same goes for stuff like Dragon Strike in the area that they're coming from, Blizzarding it, as a support, of course, Drop Beat Valkyrie, or Trance can help your team sustain, also sending a banana boost, nading, sleeping, right? Remember that while EMP is a very powerful ability, especially in low elo, people are very bad at going around it. So what they a lot of time will do is they will EMP, then engage, where what you actually should do is engage, then EMP, right? So since a lot of people do that, there's a flaw in that. As soon as the EMP hits, they will a lot of time push very, very aggressively and not care and just W mouse 1 you, which does leave a lot of openings where they won't play cautious. They will be running just straight at you, which does leave a lot of openings for us to make our own plays. And that's a very, very important thing to remember. So yeah. That's really my tricks. Again, as tank, try to stay out, try to make sure that you of course can cancel it, playing high ground and so on. Make sure that if you get hacked, they don't get as much value as a DPS. Try again to do the same. Make sure that they don't get a lot of value, that you can defend yourself to a certain extent. There's a lot of picks that can help you do this. High ground is really, really good. Besides that, positioning yourself away that you're guarding your tanks and helping guard your team, right? Putting up this kind of safety net issue can help out there. And if you play support, there you need to find a fine balance between splitting away from your team and staying around your team and doing very much the same thing as a DPS. If you get hacked, you need to try to use cover and so on to essentially outlast the hack, or to just essentially make the fight far more fair for you. Now that's really my tips. Tell me your tips down below of what you guys like to do against Sombra and how you counterplay Sombra yourself. As always, guys, if you're interested in hiring me as a private coach, it's €50 for a 2-hour session. Hit me up on our Discord, which will be linked down in the description, including Twitter and my Twitch. I hope I see you guys there. I love you guys very, very much. My name is Jonal. Please take care of yourself and stay positive. As always, guys, keep getting me in your crosshair.